Kokinak semdol kake mofaseda.
The Talking In Stations, a podcast about EVE Online. I am Matt Arall, and we're going to talk to some very interesting people today. And I'm going to start with the person that you see on screen here. That is Scott Manley. How's it going?
Hello. It's going great.
You guys recognize that voice? You should. He has over 1 million followers on YouTube, over 300 million views on his videos. And it all started with EVE Online.
That's right. Oh, yeah. First EVE Online video was my 4-year-old daughter playing a game.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just trying to show that EVE Online isn't that difficult.
We're going to actually get to more of that. I want to hear more about how you started and how you built up such a crazy big audience. But let me finish the introductions here with Scott, with Kellon. You may know from winning the Marian Championships. No, not Championships. Marian Succession Trials. It was Caldari Championships, a Marian Succession Trials. Kellon, how are you doing? It's nice to meet you.
Doing pretty good here.
Awesome. Boy, this is going to be an interesting show. Very interesting people. And then later on, we're going to have Naros and Killaby come on and tell us what's going on in the north. Okay. So something happened that is very rare in EVE Online. There was, 2 years ago was the last time we saw CCP open up the ability to use PLEX as a mechanism to gather money for a charitable event. And this time, what is that called?
PLEX for Good.
PLEX for Good. Thank you. So PLEX for Good used to happen every time there was a big disaster, a global disaster. And the fires in Australia are now considered a global disaster. EVE Online has opened the program again, and people have been donating their PLEX, that's their in-game pilot license, to CCP, and CCP will take the equivalent in real money and send that to relief efforts in Australia. So that's been going on for, I think, a couple of weeks now. Well, something very interesting happened in the middle of that. We saw the most expensive, maybe one of the rarest, most expensive ships go up for sale in order to gather PLEX, in order to give to that PLEX for Good. And that was the gold magnet that Kellon had won, and he was selling that, and Scott picked it up for 1 million PLEX. So it's a huge effort. Both of you guys did a great thing, and we're going to talk about that again in just a second. But first, I want to actually get to know Scott a little bit better. Tell us early on how you started with EVE Online and started building up your fortune to buy 100 million PLEX.
Oh, I was a terrible player for a long time, for sure. But yeah, I started with EVE Online, and I was a very care bear for a very long time. But I got very good at analyzing the market and following the forums and doing number crunching. I got into Technetium very early on, and then started making investments. And when the Noctis came out, that was an amazing day for me, because I remember heading deep out into the Outer Rim. I was logged out there waiting for the blueprints to come for sale after downtime. I remember this race out with my interdiction, immune Tengu, sneaking through like bubbles where there were tons of wrecks of covert ops and everything, with like half a dozen, or maybe I think it was a dozen blueprints in my hold. And I just started building them. The first Noctis I sold, right, salvage ship, I sold it for 340 million ISK. That was early on. People were paying ridiculous amounts.
Yeah, we should explain that. When that ship came on, it was a new ship, so that was interesting. But it was also built by OR, Outer Ring Explorations or something. And so it was really the BP, the blueprint, was only accessible through this 1 or 2 stations, I think, out in Outer Ring. Yeah. So you had to, it was like a death race to get out there, get the blueprint, build these ships and sell them while they were hot. So a lot of people were trying to do it, and they were all dying in the process.
Yeah. But also because it was a salvage ship and all the mission runners wanted to have this dedicated salvage ship, they sold, the market was just, had a huge demand. And the next thing that happened is the market started running out of Noxium, which is one of the minerals that's very highly needed in ore ships, the Hults and the all the other ones. I forget their names. All the mining ships.
Yeah.
And I'd done a bunch of analysis and found all the things I could buy and melt down, and I'd had huge piles of like medium meta smart bombs and stuff that I'd got so I could make money on it. And eventually the price got high enough that I could start buying Pax Amaria from NPC agents. And I'd set up these huge buy orders and they would all get fulfilled instantly. And I set up bait orders to make sure nobody else was doing it. And yeah, I was melting down, it must be billions of Bibles to supply New Eden's need for salvagers. And that's where I got most of my money. And then, what happened later was, of course, I started posting EVE Online videos with referral links, and that just compounded everything. So at that point, I wasn't playing the game so much, but, my most fun I had in EVE was when I was trying to make that market work. And so, yeah, I think, millions of PLEX. I've probably referred thousands of players at this point via my YouTube videos. I've got one that's called The 10 Things You Need to Know When Starting EVE Online, and like 1.7 million people have viewed it, and some of those have clicked on the referral link. So, yeah.
We saw somebody who said that you're the reason they stayed in EVE or got involved in EVE in the first place. Like,
there's a lot of people for sure.
Yeah.
But, I think EVE just attracts people with the stories. And I've told a few stories. My Fountain War video was very popular as well. Yeah. And that sort of paints a picture of a large-scale alliance combat. But a lot of people join the game and then never see any of that because they want to stay in HiSec.
Yeah, that video, I used it as reference just to get the beginning and the end and everything in between for Fountain War. When I was doing the Continuum of War speech in Las Vegas, it was part of the preparation. I did a ton of interviews, but that was kind of a really easy way in 15 minutes to find out how the Fountain War began and where it ended. And you had such great information all the way through.
Yeah.
But I think the key to that was just and maybe one of the keys to your success is you and your great delivery and how you actually lay out the story. I think having details is one thing. Being able to communicate them in an engaging way is a totally different thing.
Well, thanks.
And we hope that you will show us how to do it so we can do it better.
Oh, man, I don't know. You just got to ask me to tell stories, really. But yeah, these days I don't play EVE so much. I post science videos because I really love space stuff.
Right. So you do a lot of, I've looked at your Wikipedia. You're one of the few EVE players that has a Wikipedia listing. And you play a lot of science games because that's your actual interest, right? Engineering.
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah, Kerbal Space Program. And I like to do, Space Engine, Universe Sandbox, and try to explain orbital mechanics and how rockets work. And then also tell stories about real, rockets. Like I told a story this week about a cosmonaut who almost died on re-entry when his spacecraft went the wrong way. That was a fun one.
Is that the Russian cosmonaut that?
Yes. If they're cosmonauts, they're generally Russian.
Yeah, you're right. See how much you know. But there was a really interesting. I was looking at some space stuff at one point, and they were talking about a cosmonaut that died in re-entry, and they had like ghost recordings of him or something. Yeah,
that's Vladimir Komarov on Soyuz 1, where it was not ready for prime time. And so Soyuz 5, a similar thing almost happened. And the spacecraft, the guy was going in, nose first into the atmosphere, and he could see the hatch in front of him starting to heat up, and the smoke was coming around the seal, and he was getting pulled out of his seat. And then there was a big bang, and his spacecraft fell apart, and it turned the correct way around, so he survived re-entry. But he broke his jaw, and when he got there, the first thing he asked for was a cigarette, and he complained about it being a very cheap brand of cigarettes.
Oh my God. What a great story. And he survived.
Yes.
So it has a good end.
Yeah, landed in it was minus 38 degrees. And before you ask whether it's Fahrenheit or centigrade, it doesn't matter when it's that low.
Right. At that point,
they cross over.
Again, right? Yeah. Wow. That's nuts. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go and listen to some of these other space talks that you do on your channel. How often do you produce work?
Well, like 2 to 3 times a week.
Are they usually long
videos.
form or 10 minutes? Okay.
10, yeah, mostly 10 minutes or so.
And is it, are they all like edited, or do you just kind of turn it on and go?
You know, some of them is literally I point a camera at my face and talk for 10 minutes and throw some pictures together. Other times I do research. Like I did a great series on nuclear weapon construction, how those work. And that was all very heavily researched and all scripted very carefully.
Oh, that's fascinating. All right, cool. Today we have you on the show because you did something incredible, and you took out $1 million PLEX from your wallet and you bought it from this man, Kellon. Real quick, Scott, what made you do that?
Well, I was going to take out a big chunk of PLEX and give it to PLEX for good. And I saw this and I felt that this is even cooler. We've got this cool story that we can now tell about spending silly amounts of money on an internet spaceship in the name of charity. I thought it sounded cooler, and I wanted a gold magnet, really. Like, there's so few of those, and I remember logging in to Eve for the first time and doing some research and seeing about these rare spacecraft, the Opux luxury yacht and the gold magnet, and yeah, when the one came up, I was like, I gotta get that, and the money is going to charity.
Not a bad way to get rid of that much money. So that was all possible because Kellon decided to put that up on, I guess, how did you even put that up? Did you just announce it, Kellon?
Yeah, I went to the forums, and a friend of mine went to, because I don't have Reddit now, so you know.
And went to Reddit. Okay.
Reddit. Someone has to spread the news Reddit because Reddit knows everything.
All right, but let's back up a minute, because how did you get into possession of one of the rarest ships in EVE Online?
I had the fortune of being the team captain for the Mars Championships, where we which was involved in the Mars session, and our team won. I managed to pick some of the great players. We had to beat Chester and friends in round 1. That was a really rough match, I'll be honest. I mean, prior to the match starting, because we weren't sure if we were going to beat some of the best players in EVE.
So you were the, I guess would be considered an underdog in that very first match?
Yeah, Chester and friends were considered top chance to win the hold.
That's right. It was a big deal. Elise was in that tournament too, but Chester was another big name in that tournament. Those guys did small gang all the time, and everybody's heard of them because of their video work on Twitch and stuff. So, and also he'd done announcing for the Alliance tournament, so he was a well-known person with a well-known group of people that were pretty lethal. I think, though, they usually run around Providence, if I'm not mistaken. And you were able to defeat them and then go on to, I mean, tell us about that tournament, what it was like to get in it, what the pressure was like, and how you ended up getting to the finals, which we'll talk about at the end there.
So they announced the championship, and I mean, I've been PvPing for a while at that point. I know a lot of PvPers LoSec, and I was kind of interested in it because I actually felt with a 4-man team, we stood a chance to at least try to get into round 2, because round 1 is elimination, basically. And if you get to round 2, you get silver magnet. It's like, oh, if we can get to round 2, which is, you only have to win 2, that's doable, right? So if I can get a good team together, we can try to win first 2 matches. So I managed to get a group together, and I was waiting to put my what house I was picking in late because I want to see who signed up for what teams and try to pick the weakest. So I signed up for Tash Murcon, and shortly afterwards, so did Chester. I'm like, no!
So there's, how many houses are there for the Amar Empire? Like, there, I don't know how many there are.
I believe there was 6 for the tournament.
That's what I thought. Okay, and so each house had 2 teams?
Each house had 4 teams to start with.
Wow.
So CSP had to whittle it down from the posts for each house and select what they thought were the top 4. And let me tell you, there's some controversy, at least on the threads, about PL getting 3 slots. But I mean, they also have good tournament teams, so it's not a big deal.
Well, this tournament was filled with some great PvPers, Kellon among them. You guys managed to survive up to the finals, but then you had to perform and win in front of a live audience in FanFest, in front of a live stream as well. A lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure, and I had to fly all the frigates because nobody else wanted to fly them, and because I was a team captain, I had to take responsibility for the ship. Nobody wanted. It's like, oh, here's a frigate in the comp. Go fly it. I'm like, well, I mean, you're right. That's my job.
Well, you came through. You won the secession trial for your house, which named your patron the new queen. What do you remember her name? I'll put you on the spot.
Tash Merkan. It's
Tash Merkan. Okay.
Tiz. I'm terrible pronouncing names, so.
Yeah, me too. Tell me about it. So she ended up ascending to the throne. So you influenced the in-game lore, and kind of a rarity in this game. Do you think about that at all, or does that not really enter your?
I think about it sometimes. They actually, quote unquote, killed her like a year or two ago in game, because I don't know why they killed all the in-game characters and remade them for like the ones you use for event. I suspect it had something to do with them updating tools or something, and they couldn't update the old character. But I have no idea why they did it. But that's my suspicion. So I got a lot of emails saying, "Oh, look, she's dead."
Oh, I see. They technically killed the character, but it wasn't.
They made a new character that was the exact same person, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's just a change of costume, and as far as lore is concerned.
Yeah, because they all ended up in the Heldum, the biomass.
This is
I missed this.
Yeah, I didn't know about this at all.
Yeah, I don't know why they did. I suspect it had something to do with tools, though, because they did to pretty much all the NPC characters they use for the live event stuff when they do it, which is not very common.
Oh, it's wild. We'll have to research that. But for this occasion, you ended up with the gold magnet. There was another gold magnet that died about, say, 7 months ago, and we had a show on that. That wasn't you, was it?
No, none of them were kind enough to give me their winnings, because we each got one gold magnet for the Toro. So there's 4 introduced. The very beginning game, in like 2003, they had MR championships there because there was also another gap in leader. Sort of like opened the game up, and there was a gold magnet rewarded then. So out of 5 introduced, 3 have been killed so far. So wow. Could be number 4.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Better not fly it.
It's a LOSAC.
Uh-oh. So that brings us to where we are today. 3 out of 5 gold magnets have been destroyed. There's only 2 now in existence from this latest tournament. One of them just got sold from Kellon, the winner of that gold magnet, over to Scott Manley, who's very popular on YouTube, who put up 1 million PLEX, and all that went to charity. So the question, Kellon, is what made you do that?
I mean, I was never going to. I mean, I'm sure there's often people who are like, Kellon, you should use the gold magnet. You haven't even got a single kill with it. You should at least undock it once and kill an alt with it. Turns out it's very hard to kill an alt when you don't have one.
Oh, that's right. You only have 1 account.
But I wasn't going to do that anyway. I just thought the opportunity cost for actually using it was too much. That's part of the reason I never flew it, because, I mean, it represented 1 ship, or if I sold it, it represented a lot more.
Yeah.
More ships than I could ever realistically fly, honestly.
And this was the time to get rid of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good cost here. I wasn't going to fly it myself. And I thought I could do something real good. I tried to work with CCP on it, but they weren't able to make it work out. So that's why the auction went up kind of last. Because I sent an email to CCP on day 1, and they got back to me about 6 days later. So
you just did it on your own?
Yeah, CCP didn't have enough time to try to work with me, because I was hoping maybe we could do big, like Newton-wide raffle. Everyone could throw in some hits. because it's all for charity.
Should have hypernetted that thing.
Do you see what happened to the hypernet for the State Raven issue?
Yes.
I also don't have enough liquid ISK to put in hypernet because I do believe it requires the money up front.
Yeah, but maybe if it's going to charity, CCP could have fronted you the fees to put it on the.
Yeah. I was thinking something. Maybe they could break the hypernet system or something for me there, but there just wasn't enough time by the time they finally managed to find.
So for those that don't know, when the hypernet first came out, they put up a very rare ship, the State Issue Raven, or Raven State Issue, and it was going to go for 4 trillion ISK, which is just a gigantic amount of ISK. Very few people have that. But in order to put that up for auction or raffle, it cost them, I believe it was 66,000 PLEX, which is that what it was? 6,000 PLEX. And they lost that money because the raffle didn't get enough participants in order to actually trigger. So everything went back to the owners, but the fees for putting that up in the first place were lost. And I think it was like 150 billion or so. But that is nothing compared to 1 million PLEX.
Wow.
Like what is 1 million PLEX, Scott? What are we talking about?
We don't know exactly how CCP is doing the conversion, but most people are talking $30,000 to $40,000 in terms of what it would take to buy them. We don't know how.
I did some math. If we use CCP's official numbers of 40.99 USD or euros to 110 PLEX, it's 45,000. But I doubt they're going to use that number.
Yeah.
So straight conversion to real money is $105,000. Is that what you said?
45 grand.
Yeah.
45. Okay. 45.
But that's like optimal money. It's probably going to be less than that.
Yeah. Because they are running a business, and some of these PLEX have been sold by third parties that have taken their cut out. Right?
Right. So, and they won't tell you how much they're going to convert to send to Australia. Right? Or have they?
If they have, I haven't found it.
They haven't said what their value PLEX said.
Yeah, you said the real world value.
Oh, interesting.
Which they actually get determined for some reason.
Yeah, but even at that side, it does make it probably the most expensive internet spaceship ever sold publicly, and that is beyond EVE Online as well. There's other games that are selling expensive internet spaceships, and so that's something that EVE can claim.
You essentially bought a $45,000 ship.
Which, with money that I couldn't convert to the real thing anyway, obviously. Yeah. My wife was like, what? You spent what? On what?
I can explain, honey.
It wasn't possible. It's for a good cause. No, I've had this, and at a certain point, you have so much money in EVE, and you're making money at such a rate, then it's just sitting there, and you might as well do something cool with it.
Well, this is something cool. Max Singularity's in the chat there, and he says that costs more than my Jeep. Max Singularity is a player who's also very well known for his real life cosmetology. Is that the? Wait, did I just say he's a makeup artist?
Yeah, I think you just did. That would be my daughter.
So you're into science, and you raised your daughter. She became a cosmetologist.
Well, she's 15 right now, and she's in the Scouts, and they had a thing called Code Red yesterday where they do like first aid scenarios, and she did all the makeup. And if you look on my Twitter, there's some crazy good gore makeup she did on my son for giggles. They both had EVE accounts for a while. They haven't played it recently, but we did occasionally ship up together for giggles.
Oh, I'm looking at it on the back end here. Yeah,
she just loves doing that.
Yikes.
Bonus points for taking the kids in a couple of months to do the nuclear physics merit badge for Scouts. So,
wow.
We can do that.
I was in Scouts. I didn't know they had a nuclear physics one. That's amazing. Let's talk about how you made your fortune in order to be able to buy the rare ship for 1 million PLEX. We talked about it a little bit early on, but you started on YouTube making some stories with your daughter?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, as I mentioned, when I started out with YouTube, it was just kind of let's make a YouTube account so I can post videos from my new iPhone. Isn't this a cool gizmo? And at some point, I was also an Eve player, had been a player for a few years, and I was just always seeing all these people complaining about how difficult Eve is, and I was like, okay, I'm going to put a 4-year-old girl flying around New Eden. And we sort of started with her just flying from one station to another with a big thing in the cargo hold. And then we did some other things where she would go and run some missions, shoot some bad guys. And eventually we got some PvP as well. We sat her on a gate in low-sec for a long time. And we had scouts either side making sure that we got a legit kill. And there was a rainbow lasered, Amarian destroyer as well that was quite cool. Oh yeah, and she actively took part in the blue ice interdiction, because at that point I was closer to goons.
Wow. She's a pirate.
And that was another way I made a ton of money, because I sort of had the isotopes sitting around to take advantage of the market movements there. So yeah, there's a video of her in the catalyst going up and killing someone mining in a belt, which was kind of cool. And yeah, then Kerbal Space Program came along, and that's how that went. But Eve obviously went the other way, and I stayed in Eve, and my intro videos just got a lot of referral clicks. People would sign up through my link, and I would get Plex. And I tried early on to share with people that signed up to try and give them something back. I had a corporation called No Bullships, and I would give them free stuff, encourage them to join up, and very quickly that became impossible because my YouTube audience was creating too many signups. And yeah, years later, I stopped playing Eve because this YouTube thing takes far too much time. But I came back especially for this, and that was what really I knew I was coming back when I saw Plex for good, and then I saw this post on Reddit. I was like, I gotta get this. This is, I don't care what it is. I thought, I got 1 million subscribers, 1 million Plex. The symmetry is there. it just makes sense. And then somebody outbid me on it. We're not a legit bid, but I decided to honor my bidding higher than them.
Well, so you bid 100 million and somebody outbid you?
No, I bid 1 million. Yeah, and then somebody
1 million.
A few people joked they came in with higher bids, and then CCP came in and said, by the way, technically this might qualify for the no Plex scamming. This might qualify as a scam if you're pushing bids up. I had plenty more to go. In fact, I had to put a fairly large. I did a personal donation as well, so I can get some of those T-shirts.
Yeah.
I don't know what would do all those T-shirts I'm getting.
Yeah, you'll be able to clothe so many orphans through New Eden.
So somebody was trying to push your bid higher and higher and higher, even though they couldn't pay. I see what they're doing.
Yeah, and I was good for it.
Begging for mercy from the DMs. Please don't ban me.
Hey, Kellen, how shocked were you when you were expecting to get a lot, but did you think you were going to get that much?
No, I think I was aiming for 1 trillion range, because I felt that 1 trillion for a unique chip and Eve was pretty and that's whatever right. I got over that was bonus, right?
Yeah, 1 trillion ISK, right?
And I thought that 1 million was just a nice round number and sounded cool. And I also knew that I couldn't be on the forums, plus oneing everyone's bid.
Oh yeah, so you just came in with a giant Godzilla foot and boom.
Yeah,
settled business.
There were no serious bids after that came down. Everybody was like, I want a bid, but I don't have enough.
But I'm 980,000 Plex short. But
yeah, also the fact that it was in Plex made, it meant that you didn't have to convert it on the market.
I would have definitely lost a good chunk to both taxes and the inevitable increase in pricing when you buy a trillion.
Yeah,
because the price would have definitely gone up because you buy all the low ones, and then there's only the ones that are waiting for someone like me to buy.
Isn't that interesting? Because we've been hearing about this actually in real life, right? If you're listening to the impeachment trial, there's this sort of a thing that comes up before, but you cannot spend or you cannot buy gargantuan amounts of items because the market will fluctuate to try to fix that. So you can't even possibly buy a ton of or sell a ton of Plex. You can't sell it all at once because you'll kill the market. So you have to, it takes time to unload massive amounts of things, which is interesting.
Yeah, see, if I was an active player right now, I would probably be then selling on a ton more Plex and then buying them back in a couple of months when the price has dropped.
So now we know how you made your fortune.
I did a lot of market analysis. Like, I was a number cruncher, big data all the way.
Well, Scott, it's really nice to hear your voice. I think a lot of people will be thrilled when the podcast comes out and people are like, no way, that's coming out. Because people know you from your videos and just how much exposure you've given EVE Online and now other games as well, because you're a serious scientist. But it all started with EVE Online.
That was the thing that got the hooks in my videos.
Yeah. Did you also what was it like when you first started compared to where you're at now as far as confidence in front of the medium?
Oh, I mean, I was always a confident speaker, but I guess, my technique has improved a whole lot. And now I realize that it's important that I accentuate the Scottishness because that means more clicks.
That's your brand. I got to develop some kind of accent. Maybe I could do a Mexican accent of some sort.
Yeah.
We don't need badges. We don't need no stinking badges. This is a real treat. So thanks very much for coming on, and stick around if you want to. We're going to now move into some news, get some people caught up on some of the wars that are happening. And Kellen, it's a real pleasure to meet you outside of the tournament space. Are you still flying around in tournaments, and what do you have?
I was signed up for a tournament recently, but they changed some of the dates, so I didn't actually make it for any of the matches. I was on the team, though. We did a lot of practice. We won.
Oh.
But I wasn't actually in any of the matches, so, it's more of a silent participation there.
Yeah. Real quick, your thoughts on Alliance Tournament, and do you miss it? Or is that something
I would really love for it to come back in some sort of format at least, or at least have more tournament support from CCP. I think currently Thunderdome's having some issues.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if CCP would.
Oh, do you have any information on that?
No, just the information I had when it was going on. There was the tournament. Thunderdome was broken, so the tournament was having issues running. But then they realized they had to fix Thunderdome for the tournaments they were running at all the fans. So it got fixed, at least temporarily. I think they still had an issue where it wasn't able to run more than 3 days in a row because then it broke.
Wow, sounds like the duct tape was melting off.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look to see if they give us any more information. A lot of people hoping the Alliance tournament comes back, but we'll see. We actually wanted to have a show on the actual popularity of the Alliance tournament, if it was worth the effort for CCP and that sort of thing, and really wanted to have that debate because there's really good points on both sides. But that'll be for another day. Just curious because you're such an advanced player and you perform in low small gang activity, which is what the Alliance tournament is built for. Okay, so let's move on to something that's going on. And by the way, it's really nice to meet you guys. Stay here if you can. If you can't, that's okay. I want to introduce our next couple guests. The ever popular Killer B is with us.
Hello.
Hey, Killer B. And we also have with us from Fraternity, their leader, Noros.
Hey, friends.
How you doing, Noros? Okay, so Killer B, what's going on up in the north? Can you get us caught up?
Yeah, 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yep.
It's working? Okay, because I switched to voice activation because push to talk was annoying. And this room is quiet enough. Yeah, so basically, NC. has deployed to Teenal a while ago. Actually, can't remember when. Must have been during the summer. It's been a while. And we have started to push on that coalition who live in Teenal Branch and Dickline. We started to make some progress. Then we had a little break around Christmas, obviously, because everybody's gone for Christmas. And things have been picking up a lot lately because we've got some major players moving in. Nora's being one of them, namely FRT, coming up here and assisting us, which is very important because that coalition's main combat strength is in Russian and Chinese time zone, which is where their two biggest allies, which are Raja Regiment and Siberian Squad, are living in, basically in that time zone. And we had a very hard time making good progress against that coalition because all of their stuff was defensively timed for their strong time zone, obviously. Now with FRT being up here and VVV as well, which is another Chinese alliance who has been around for quite some time, we are finally getting to the point where we can match their numbers and even outnumber them in their strongest time zone, which is obviously a big deal. So we've had a couple of bigger form-ups on both sides. Just on, I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday, there was a big form-up for a bunch of iHubs. There was a total of 13 iHubs that came out of Reinforce, including one of their staging Keepstar iHubs, which are obviously very important to kill, because if you manage to take down a Keepstar iHub, the system cannot be jammed any longer, and you can siege the Keepstar far more effectively. They did manage to defend the Keepstar iHub. We managed to kill 8, I think, out of 13 in total. So we didn't get the jackpot. We didn't manage to kill the Keepstar iHub, but we managed to kill 8 iHubs around that system, which is also good. And we've kind of just been having those kind of timers a lot lately. So that's kind of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And now very sort of up-to-date development is we've had Goons had a fireside chat on Friday, I think is when they do them, or Saturday. And they announced that they were deploying their NGSA, which is basically their camping and kind of the SIG they use to shut down ratting and mining by just cloaky camping a lot of systems. They are moving that to OASA, I think, which is part of drones. And they want to shut down the PV operations going on there because obviously, as you can see in the last monthly economic report, OASA has been gaining incredible bounty ticks, apparently just as much as Delve, almost as much as Delve, which is incredible.
I think they care more about the production and mining value there.
And the mining and the production stuff is going very well as well. Mm-hmm. So we've just been, that's happening. And then also I think they announced Goons, that is still Goons, I think also announced that they want to move some of their combat SIGs up here, maybe form a new combat SIG to
so they want to get involved,
participate. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, it makes sense for them, right? Because that coalition is their peer. Like that coalition, I don't like calling people pets because I think it's a bit disrespectful. Yeah, exactly. But is there a better word for that? Like, what do you call it?
Slave? No. I just meant because of Amari, and it's a little more lore.
Yeah, it's basically, obviously, GOTG has been, or that coalition has been aligned with the Imperium ever since Imperium pushed PanFam out of the north, out of Vale and Tribute, and them being so close to us, it was a logical choice for us to go attack them. Now that when the Imperium was done, it was basically the only logical way to go. Obviously, the Imperium is not interested in seeing them fall, I don't think. So they're getting involved now. Init got involved before Christmas even. I think Init deployed up to... Init actually staged inside a Darkness Keepstar, or a Dead Coalition Keepstar for a while.
So they're
before
all
Christmas.
In, yeah.
Well, yeah, they were, but they deployed. They didn't do anything. Basically, Init deployed up to the Darkness staging, GOTG staging. Then they did like 3 fleets, and then they undeployed again for Christmas, and they've never come back since then. Wasn't a very successful deployment on their end. But
and I hear that
will tell you a different story.
Test famously deployed up there too. They wanted to do it to eliminate Sword Dragon's voting block.
Well, yeah, they deployed to Pure Blind, right? Which is a bit like Pure Blind, Branch, and Tenal are not exactly close to each other, but it's definitely the same area of influence, I guess you could say.
And we recently saw some activity from Pro God Legend, but has it been kind of quiet for them?
Yeah, so they had this this has been a while ago, right? But Test had announced this very, very long-term sort of schedule that they were going for with what they're going to do as an alliance and as a coalition. And they had scheduled the Stain Purge for early January. So I think they just they came up north before Christmas and New Year's. They did a bunch of fleets, and then New Year's came, and then they went to purge Stain, or I don't know what exactly they did in Stain. Honestly, I didn't care that much. They went to Stain, killed some shit, and now they want to get more involved again. But we'll see if and how much they will actually get involved. I'm still not positive that goons are going to let tests help us destroy that coalition. So we'll see when the leash gets pulled, basically.
Oh, well, I'm not going to call them pets because that might be derogatory, but I will say when goons pull test leash. Okay,
I think it was completely unplanned for a test to invade GOTG. I think there was some more story that we see on the table, because during the initial really update after our war in Detroit, they plan to at least do some after the stem purge. They would do some corp deployments, and it was supposed to be mandatory to keep the alliance activities, But then instead they have a full alliance or even coalition now in the north. That was kind of interesting for me.
Yeah, they still managed to take out a Stain Keepstar in the last few weeks. But this did come up all of a sudden. It was very unexpected. Vili was very public about it. He actually showed up on Talking in Stations ready to talk about it. It was something that he wanted to promote and get out there. But it did come out of nowhere, and they actually did send some people up there. But the question was, well, wait a minute. If you have initiative working with Dead Coalition, helping in the defense of their home, and Test is on their way up to attack that home alongside their rival Pandemic Legion and NCDOT, how is it going to work out when Goonswarm gets involved and Test is on the opposite side because they're supposed to be allies?
Well, we've been in those kind of situations with PL in the past. Back when I was still in PL, we did show up to third party on timers where we were blue with one side. It's quite easy, actually. You just don't shoot your blues, basically. So, for example, if there's a fight where, let's say, we have Dead Coalition in it and Goons versus NCPL and Test, for example, right? Then Test can still shoot Dead Coalition and in it, but they can't shoot Goons, right? So there's still plenty of stuff to shoot for them. Usually, it does create a bit of a headache for your diplomats sometimes, but if you want to be involved, then you better be involved. I just don't like half-assing, so I'm kind of waiting for a final, a definite answer Vince is waiting for a definite answer by somebody like Vili or ProGod. It's like, yeah, we're in or not, right? Because it's like, well, we might be involved in some time, or this kind of sort of floating thing is just not something that we can really work with.
Right. Are you reliable or not?
Well, basically what we want to know is, are you going to follow through? Or if there's a super important timer and then suddenly goons make up their mind and Mitani goes well, you can't help NC with this timer. What are you going to do? Are you going to, obviously when we do make these kind of plans, and our campaign commander, again, I'm not involved in this campaign in the sense that I don't make any decisions. But our campaign commander, obviously, when he plans for a timer or when he maybe plans to attack a Keepstar or an important iHub, he wants to know that he can rely on, the alliance, and it's not very good to calculate or work with if there's the possibility that they might pull out right before the timer because reasons,
Right. So who's in charge there in NC? Nidaspar?
Nidaspar, yeah. He's been running his campaign ever since we deployed, and I mean, the progress we've made is just kind of its own testament to his success. We've destroyed so many iHubs in Tinel already that Tinel is basically a dead zone now. There's almost nothing going on in Tinel anymore. All the people that used to live in Tinel had to be moved back into Branch or Decline for their operations, and Tinel is kind of like a wasteland at the moment. So,
speaking of iHubs, there was one iHub that you didn't kill, and that was the one for the actual staging system.
Exactly. Yes.
Ranger Regiment, and that you didn't kill it because there was some sigil that you guys couldn't track very well in your Titans. Tell us about that.
I don't know. I wasn't on that fleet, right? But I asked Vince after what happened, because Vince was there for the fleet as well as Nidaspar, and basically they dropped Titans on a sigil, because there was like this one sigil on this one node that would win them the timer. And our subcap fleet was stuck somewhere else, so they decided to drop our Titans on the sigil. But most of our Titans weren't Horgun fit, right? So they were like capital gun fit, so they obviously didn't hit the sigil at all. So it just kind of tanked for long enough for the node to go through, basically. And then the IHOP was secured. It was apparently pretty funny. Vince was pretty mad, and I'm thinking of that now. I just think it's pretty hilarious, to be honest.
It is. Sigil is actually my favorite ship in EVE Online. If somebody were to ask me, it's the Sigil.
Little funny
for real?
for the Sigil.
Yeah, I love the Sigil. I do. I have fond memories of sneaking around LowSec picking up planetary interactive materials from planets. But Naros, I wanted to ask you, Fraternity, you brought Fraternity up there. What was that presence like? How much did you bring up to that effort, to that fight?
You mean to that specific fight, or in general?
Let's do both. But that specific fight, how many did you bring up, and how many do you have in the area now?
It was Chinese New Year, so it was like a Christmas dinner time, like in China. But I didn't expect, but I still flew my full fleet of hacks. I have like 120 hacks in millions, which I'm pretty regretful because I was supposed to bring harpies. We could have won the timer if I brought harpies. Ranger Regiment was hiding in a dead end system, and I could have gone through and just picked them out, but I was lost there for 5 minutes, and it was all lost. So yeah.
Sure. You were literally lost, like you didn't know where you were?
I formed the late. This is like New Year, right? And I formed the late. I joined the system. And PL bridged me into the system, and they told me, well, the Gun Swarm hack fleet in front of you, and there's a GOTG Eagle fleet behind you. So I was like, okay, I'll just stay in the system and protect their Intosis, because there were like 4 nodes in the system. I didn't anticipate NC was using fax and Bifrost to Intosis, which is less efficient because like the system was pretty high ADM. And I let Ranger Regiment just sneaky around, hiding in the dead end for a good 15 minutes, and they finished enough nodes.
Wow. So I heard that you brought some subcap fleets, but you also brought some capital fleets, some super capital fleets. Did you know?
Right. We brought 45 Titans, I think, and equivalent amount of fax machine. I didn't bring any super carriers because I don't want stuck in the Titan fast. If they really were a super cap fight, we just bring mutants and shoot to do the defense. It's mostly about Titans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I brought a Titan fleet back after the fight.
So you guys in the north there, Killer B, there was a lot of rallying for this big fight that happened. This was about 3 days ago. This was Australian time zone, which is also the Chinese time zone, which is when Sword Dragon's Dead Coalition should be at their peak strength. And you guys were able to have an amazing showing for a European based alliance, but you had Fraternity, which is also Chinese, to help bolster your numbers. But it was still a massive showing. Was that the biggest showing you guys have had in Australian time zone?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably been one of our bigger ones. I don't know if it was the biggest, but certainly a very, very good showing by us. Vince was very happy. He did put his heart and soul into hyping the timer as well. So usually when Vince hypings that much, then numbers are always great. So I wasn't really surprised that our numbers were good. Like, I didn't expect that many people, obviously, but that was good, very good showing for us. And we obviously do appreciate FRT coming up and helping us out with this timer. Like I said in the beginning, it's a very, very big deal that FRT is getting involved, because it gives us that edge in the time zone where we struggled previously. We now are going to be able to make
morale pressure.
Yeah.
A morale what?
Yeah, I think
push?
it's more of a morale pressure, because we had the fleet sitting there. We didn't do much, but the FC was like, okay, but Fraternity has 200 people here, so we're just going to pump those timers. They didn't contest like those 10 IHubs in East Tino, maybe just because my fleet was there, but we didn't engage in any way, right?
Yep.
No, but they did see you there, and so if they engaged, they would know that they were going to meet some heavy resistance.
It's certainly putting a lot of pressure onto that coalition because now they know that their major advantage is basically gone. And that's, I think, something that they're now going to have to realize and start. Well, I mean, obviously the consequence is goons getting involved. It's just fact.
Goons getting involved in Owasso makes sense on an economic level, right? You want to slow down your rivals' economic structures, but are they also getting involved to try to pool fraternity, try to keep them at home instead of being able to deploy?
There is, like, I didn't listen to, I try to avoid listening to fireside chats and stuff like that. I don't listen to meta shows either most of the time unless I'm on them. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know what they exactly said on the meta show, but as far as I can see in the TLDR that I was given, basically they are planning to deploy some sort of combat capabilities up here to assist GOTG whenever necessary. Obviously, they totally just hit a third party, but,
yeah,
that's just not true.
Put some window dressing on that.
It doesn't matter. Mitani does that. They're not there to defend the good guys because he doesn't care about the narrative. He was there. He would be there for their alliance activities, right? And they didn't brought any serious composition. They want to do some experiments.
They announced Typhoons.
Right, Typhoon with logistic frigates.
Yeah.
So they're experimenting with doctrines to see what works.
I really want them to succeed with the Typhoons but it's kind of like Typhoon is a meme in FC, like with FCs, because there's been, I think in my time as an FC, there was probably like 10, 15 times where some FC from some alliance was like, I figured it out, boys, Typhoons are the meta. And then they were just complete trash. Like every time Typhoons were brought up as a doctrine, they were garbage. So I'm just kind of hoping someday they actually succeed. And, goons have been impressing with making some stuff that people thought wasn't happen lately. So maybe the Typhoons actually are actually going to work this time. Who knows?
Yeah, Max brings out, FC, can I bring my Drake? Well, the new one will be FC, can I bring my Typhoon?
Typhoon, yeah, basically.
Everyone
so we'll see how that
starts
goes.
to use missile vessel in the north. Typhoon, Cerberus, Drakes.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, I don't know. We'll see. I just don't think. I think Munins will absolutely destroy Typhoons, for example.
That's just boring.
Yeah, of course it's boring, right?
Don't you think the buff to have a missile is not?
No, I don't think so.
So it's still not enough to bring the Typhoons back. Because Typhoons, I take it, are they used with missiles?
Yeah, Typhoons are used with missiles, obviously, such as Drakes, and I'm interested. So one thing I was actually kind of curious or interested was that there was one timer where that coalition used Scram Ham Drakes, or basically Drakes with Scrams and heavy assault missiles, which are close range missiles, so to say. Mm-hmm. And they were fighting a Ferox fleet of ours. They were fairly same in size, and I asked our AOTZFC, so how did the Scram Ham Drakes do? And it's like, they basically replied, it was kind of annoying to be scram, but we still just killed them faster than they could us. I was like, okay. The problem with missiles is there's still this one very easy counter to missiles, which is just firewalling the missiles. And unless CCP does something about firewalling, I don't see missile comms in large scale being effective, because all you have to do is put like 3 or 4 ships into your fleet comp that just run their smart bombs permanently, and you're going to negate like 30% of the damage just by doing that. And if you are really good and you manage to position the firewalling ships between your fleet and the enemy fleet, you can, and if you like then stagger the smart bombs of different smart bombing ships, you can negate like 80% of the damage, because just almost no missiles make it through the firewall basically. So yeah, we'll see how the missile meta plays out, but at the moment, I don't think it'll be very good. I might be wrong though. We'll see.
We'll see. There's another thing, Naros, I wanted to ask you about, because I know how hard you work as the leader of Fraternity, and you run a lot of things, and I think you run a lot of accounts to do it, and you're on all the time. It's rumored that you sleep like 2 hours a night.
I think 4 hours.
4 hours a night. Oh, that's pure luxury.
Yeah.
But
I took it a little bit more serious than I did monthly. I feel like during my absence, because I was essentially AFK half of the time during last war, I want to do some compensation for my alliance and coalition. I spent more time.
So you're making up for the time that you're away.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, you have criticisms from people outside of fraternity that don't understand the situation in there. And the criticisms are that there is only one way that you guys could compete with Delve in
issue.
Yeah, in creating that much wealth, and that is that you're using bots to do it. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. You can ask me questions. I want to first respond because I actually spent time, watched Meta Show, and listened to Fireside yesterday. I spent 90 minutes on that shit. On the conversation. And Mitani, I think, or Brisk was like, every alliance has been put up the stereotypes of botting, but fraternities may be one of the most criticized alliance in the game in TQ because we were mostly Chinese, we were mostly from Serenity, and that kind of impression just kept a note on our alliance name. And they brought up the screenshot of my holding group, which is a negative 1 trillion-esque balance value. It was a year. It was true. I admit it. Yes, that was right. There was some mismanagement during my last management, and it was like a year and a half ago. So that balance was not accurate right now. We're not done that far. We're like slowly paying back CCP and all that. I can't share my conversation with the GM or anyone because Eli doesn't allow that. But I've been making an effort to, conversation or making communication with CCP about this issue. But in OASA, like once we started the tutorial war, we've basically exterminated every bot from the alliance. I can say we probably have less bot. I picked up one bot for the last 2 months ever since we moved out of passage. There are people who doesn't. We have alliance rules. If you bot, it will get Alex and you will get kicked. But we do have people like kind of ignore that. So we just kick the supers and we kill them on our way out. So I'm pretty confident. I wish Paligro will at least disclose some kind of information about the bans based on regional and alliance nowadays. Like not for over a decade, but the last year, maybe people will see actually how many people in fraternity are banned for botting and how many people are banned from OASA or out of passage for botting.
Right. So I didn't see the Meta Show or the Fireside Chat this time around. Normally I do, but so I don't know what's going on with the accusations or anything. But I do know that fraternity works pretty hard at creating opportunities for their people to go out and PvE. And then you guys are pretty active as players, right?
Yeah, we are number 4, the top 4 alliance in ZQ board. If you care about a statistic, we have very active players on our comms. Like yesterday in Fireside, Mitani have 900 people, maybe 800 people in Mumble. While I make my soda, I make my alliance meeting, I have over 1,000 people.
So you guys are big. Maybe you're not given enough credit for how big you actually are.
Well, I don't know. I just think fraternity is an alliance that's big enough to justify itself either by its killbro stats or by its MER. So it doesn't like, okay, fraternity, you have so few people, but you make so many, but you are like allocating so many resources, then you must be buying. It doesn't like that because, like, if you count resources per capita, we might not be the best in the game because we have so many people and so many new players, especially.
Right. Okay, are you worried that you are now on the radar for the Imperium, who's now sending people to disrupt your economy?
Oh, of course. Like NGSA has been one of the most successful things Goonsworm does over the few years. They, if I remember correctly, they spent half year in Zaklan and Branch and maybe Fade to completely destroy GOTG before the war they had. But it was led by Asher, I think, and they have an active staging system in pure blind, so that's easier to bridge subs. While in Zhong, it doesn't always work like that way. Jay said yesterday in Zhong region are so isolated. It's like an extra challenge students have never tried before. They currently stage in FDZ. I think I will see. I planned this because I knew after we got evicted from Victoria, I knew once if we go to Drone region, we will have pretty good MER, and by that time, I don't think students will allow anyone to break their records or steal their position in the MER. So they will deploy the campers sooner or later. I just didn't expect it happened after like 2 months after we moved to Zhong region. But we are prepared, yes. I'll make a Alliance update tomorrow, just in response to this.
Oh, good. So we have some official announcements coming out of Fraternity. So your reaction plan, basically, to what's happening.
Yes.
Oh, we'll look forward to that. We have seen you be very communicative with your group. You've been talking to them, I think, at least 2 or 3 times. You've given announcements to your alliance about what was going on. Can you tell us now what is going on between you and Ranger Regiment or Army of Mango or all the other major Chinese groups?
Sure. I think Willie has maybe the best understanding among all the alliance leaders in the game about this Chinese alliances and their grudges. And like he said, it's super, super personal. I was not from Serenity. I played TQ ever since I played Eve, maybe 7 years ago.
So you've never played on the Chinese server, like you have no.
I didn't. But my personal problem with AOM, with Army of Mangoes FC, it also didn't happen in Serenity. He played maybe even longer than I did. He played over a decade from TQ. He was in what was that corp? It was pretty famous. RNK. He was in RNK.
Are we talking about Fulcrum?
Yes, Fulcrum.
The character.
We had some personal issue years ago, and he was in another Chinese corp in Gunsworm. It was the PLA corp. So our problem has started here, and it's not over yet. As for Ranger Regiment, I think we reset them over because AOM has a plan to leave Omist and migrate the whole migrate the whole alliance to the north, or at least poach some corps from the north because they saw Ranger Regiment is under siege. Maybe the people want to leave. But either case, I would not allow AOM to grow in that size as speed. So I was like, okay, so Ranger Regiment leadership accepted the requirements from AOM leadership, which means they're now strategic allies, at least in some way. And they just officially blew each other a few weeks ago.
They became allies, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the last thing that nailed me. I don't have a personal issue with Ranger Regiment at all. They were in our coalition, but they left on friendly term, and we've been blue ever since they come to this server, maybe over 2 years now. It's just quite sad the leadership decided to ally with AOM.
Now,
I don't think the line members are under any kind of blame.
Mm-hmm. Was that a function of? I'm going to bring it back up. The Miss Rabbit deal that was made?
Probably.
So you think that's what kind of brought them together?
I think she definitely plays a key role among this, coordination or.
Is she still playing? Is she still playing a key role?
She's super active in AOM. She's in charge of their super capital construction and stuff.
Oh, wow. We'll have to get her on the show to ask her about that. But you're saying that she is one of the key links between Army of Mangoes in the south, Chinese alliance, grouping up with Ranger Regiment way up in the north on the other side of the map. She has brought those two groups together, and you don't have a problem with Ranger Regiment in the north, but you do have a problem with Fulcrum. It's a personal problem, who is a key member of Army of Mangoes.
Yeah, Fulcrum is their hand FC, and maybe the second hand co-CEO of AOM. It's just kind of like a personal issue extended towards that.
Got it. Well, Eve has been known to bring out personal issues between people, so it's not rare at all. Some of the best wars are personal issues. All right, I'm going to bring, since we have Scott here, we're going to bring him back in so we have him on screen. But I want to throw this question out there because it's really talking about a lot of money that is in and out of the game, kind of being mixed around with motives that are in and out of the game again. So what I was going to bring up was your opinions on somebody was saying that Ranger Regiment was paying some of their fleet guys to get into fleet, like actually paying real money for them to fleet up. And some people at NC thought, well, that's RMT. And that's RMT. That's not real money trading for items in the game. That's paying people to show up and to participate in this game. In fact, NC was at the same time giving out, well, I don't know if they did, but they wanted to give out super carriers to incentivize people showing up in the game. But that's an in-game item.
It's not super carriers.
Oh, I thought they were Nixes.
Out of proportion.
I thought they were Nixes, no?
No, it's Dreads. We gave Dreads and some MISC away for fleet participation.
I mean, that's standard procedure, right?
I don't know. That's the first time I've
really.
Well, okay. I mean, what I've noticed, I spent a lot of time with goons, and
you're in Goon Swarm, right? Yeah,
I was. I mean, I haven't been in for a long time, but yeah, I mean, that was a big part of the success of goons is throwing ships at people to do things, whatever needed done. And I don't think it's RMT. I mean, if you were giving real money for people to play in game, that's even weirder. But I think in-game money for people to turn up to battle makes like complete sense.
I don't actually know. Like, we get the pings, right? And obviously, not a lot of us speak Chinese, so we have this like translator bot that translates the pings into English. But this translator bot is terrible. So the like the sentences don't make a lot of sense. So I was like trying to read these pings about like how they were gonna, because there was like a bunch of pings, as you said, that basically said if you show up to fleet, you're gonna get some money in the real world for it. Because they were basically trying, like Nora said, that timer was on like the equivalent of New Year's Eve dinner time, right? So most of the people will spend their time with their family, and they wanted to incentivize people for spending it with Eve instead of their families. But I don't actually know, like, so the translator, all it was talking about was like some red letters and some weird stuff.
It's a red envelope. It's a tradition.
Red envelope. Tradition. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Red envelope. So that's actually a thing in China, yes? Is it like where you put money in or something?
Right, you put a small amount of money in the red envelope. So wishing you like best fortune for the new year. It's a Chinese tradition.
Red is a color for fortune, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you have I believe why some houses have red doors. This is like part of feng shui. I don't know. Anyway, I'm off topic. But the red envelope then is money and good fortune.
Right. I think they source fund, like crowdfunded maybe 3,000 Chinese currency, and those were split randomly among maybe 300 people in their fleet.
So it wasn't a lot of money basically per person, right? It was maybe like $10 per person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so to say.
It's not a lot. It's more of a like token issue.
Okay.
Kellon, maybe you can come back in here. You're an FC and probably a really good one, along with these other guys. Would you think it's okay? This is open to all you guys too, but Kellon first. To have a FC that's paid like it seems to me like it would be fair, since they're creating a lot of content for players, that you would say, yeah, we can give you real money in order to do that sort of thing.
It's been done, right? It's been done in the past by Russian alliances that basically paid their main FCs a full-time wage to just play the game. And I think personally it's fine, because it's not the content we create, it's the time we spend. Like when I did the campaign commanding for World War B, I spent 16 hours a day on EVE Online, not necessarily playing the game, but doing all the talking and Discord warrior stuff. It cost me, I wasn't able to do anything but play EVE basically. I slept, I woke up, I ate, and I played EVE all day long. And I didn't get any money. I was stupid, I didn't ask for money. But like when you spend that kind of time and you basically give up your real life for it, then yeah, why wouldn't you? Like, I think it's fine to pay them, but I don't know if it's like a course I would want to take.
I mean, so CCP's policy on RMT is pretty much designed to prevent money coming out of the game, right? Rather than going into the game. They're all about money going into the game. So money moving around the outside of the game is probably not RMT by their definition.
Yeah, it's like a third-party software is allowed.
They can't track it. Like now we talk publicly about it, but there's no way that CCP can find out if I spend a lot of time playing EVE. They don't know if somebody sent me $2,000 on PayPal. Like, how are they going to know that? It has nothing to do with their game.
That's funny. You called PayPal PayPal, which is like from the Pope.
PayPal, whatever.
Yeah.
Space Pope.
Yeah, Space Pope's paying everybody off through PayPal.
So it's not RMT. It's probably morally questionable, but it's not RMT.
Is it though? That's what I don't understand. Like, is it morally questionable?
Some people will make a fuss about it. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up.
If Vince would offer to pay me like $3,000 a month to just play EVE, and he would put it in a contract where I would be guaranteed for the next 5 years or something, I'd probably take the offer, to be honest. Like, I'd probably do it, but that's not going to happen, so why even talk about it?
Yeah, I don't think anyone could afford my salary, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to be honest, I wouldn't, like, I make more now in my job, right, than that, but if I would have, basically, I'm okay making less money, because I am not the kind of person that only cares about making money personally. All I want is enough money so I can live comfortably, basically. And if I would have to trade a bunch of money for quote unquote only playing computer games, but still making enough to live comfortably, then I would trade the money for it, yeah. It's like, I mean, maybe you're in a position where your job is your passion and you really love your job and everything. I do like my job, but I don't love it. Like, if somebody would come along and be like, yo, you can be a pro gamer, or you can just make money playing computer games, I would be very much willing to trade some of my money away for it, basically. Let's say I make like half of what I make with my job in the real world, but I make, half of that by just playing computer games. I would probably take that if half of that is enough to live right properly.
Right. Why doesn't, like, wouldn't it be interesting if CCP came out and said, you know what, there's a lot of companies that will sponsor players and give them money, set them up in a certain lifestyle to be able to play the game and perform at a high rate, take away their worries in real life for a while. And why
there isn't an EVE though, right?
What's that?
There isn't an EVE, because there isn't there. I mean, that stuff happens all the time. There's like so many professional esport teams, and they pay those people, they give those people a house to live in, they give those people the best gaming equipment there is, they pay them a really good wage. Like, if you're with a good team like Cloud9 or TSM, you get paid a really good wage. But the problem is that EVE doesn't have the money. Like, there's not enough people care about EVE for any company to go in for that, because it's not worth it for the company, because the game isn't big enough.
But yeah, they're paying for sponsorship for a viewing audience to say, hey, this guy is sponsored by, let's say, Razer, for instance. But let's say CCP doesn't care about sponsorship. It cares about having 15 guys that they pay in order to make sure that content is still going in EVE Online.
I mean, I think that would be great, but I don't think CCP is ever going to do that. CCP, I have my opinion and my experience with the management of CCP and talking to the management of CCP, they undervalue the players in the sense that and maybe that's my point of view because obviously I was a content creator, a big content creator, but the publicity alone that CCP got from, for example, World War B or any of the other big wars, and those wars wouldn't have happened with those FCs being involved in them, and those wars wouldn't have happened with all the people that made those wars happen or whatever. Like there's never like any kind of thank you or something from CCP, right? They provide the game, and then they make all these articles. They talk to all the press, and they're like, "Oh, we've got this amazing war going on in our game," you know. And it's like the people that actually make the war happen, they don't really get any sort of gratitude. That was the first. Like, I was kind of happy after World War B because I was actually approached by CCP to make trailers with them. So I made a bunch of the scope videos, right, with CCP around the time we killed CO2 and in Tribute, right? And when we killed the MTech-O Keepstar, I was approached by CCP and was like, well, we know that this war is going on and you're about to kill the first defended Keepstar or something. How about you want to make some scope videos with us? And I was really thrilled about that because I thought finally there's a way for me to, you know, kind of immortalize myself in the EVE lore by having a scope video where I talk like my voice is in the scope video, right? Yeah. So that's pretty cool. But nothing like that has ever happened before. And ever since then, it never really happened again. So I'm just kind of sad. Like, there's like CCP doesn't seem to care enough.
You're like a washed-up Hollywood star. Like after your famous peaked, you're no longer like a big thing. Well, Kellon, you're an FC too, but in a different way, smaller teams. What would you think about being paid to FC?
I mean, it'd be really awesome to be paid to FC. Because I mean, I wouldn't consider anything different from what like YouTube does. Because let's say you make a YouTube channel showing you FC and fleets, then wouldn't that be okay? So I mean, getting direct payment from players to FC them. I mean, also, have you ever heard of like Team D? People pay people to DM campaigns, right?
Do they?
No, yeah.
Paying people to FC fleets is not against anything, I feel. I mean, you're paying them for their time to lead you in the fleets. As long as FC isn't also providing like, oh, well, you paid for a fleet, so here are all the ships you should have, and provide the ships, because then that gets into the realm of RT.
I just think it's such a gray area, and everybody has such fixed positions on it that are already there. I mean, if you look at Talking in Stations, we report what's going on in EVE and tell people what's out there. And we've done it for 4 solid years without missing weekends. I think we missed 3 in the first year. And it's like, it's a real-time job it's a real-time side gig for a lot of people, including myself and that sort of thing. For that, I put out my hat and say, I'm collecting tips and sponsorships if you guys want to like incentivize us, myself specifically. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of an unsaid thing, right? Scott, you're somebody who's like done very well on this medium with YouTube, and you have a great amount of viewership and all that. That all started with EVE. What's your opinion on this gray area?
I mean, obviously, I kind of started making EVE videos because I thought I would get referrals, but then it turned into obviously getting ad money and stuff from YouTube. And I get a significant amount of cash from it. And, you know, early on, if you wanted to post game videos to YouTube, you had to get like a signed document from the creators of the game to show YouTube so that they would let you do it. And they kept on, you know, stopping advertising on my EVE videos because I didn't have this. It took forever to get YouTube to like, you know, to approve of this. But yeah, I think obviously in the case of promoting stuff on social media and making money from that, CCP's probably completely fine with it because, again, the money is kind of moving around the outside of the game, but more importantly, it's raising awareness, which is beneficial to them. I think any of this stuff ultimately comes down to where does the money go, and does it ultimately help or hinder CCP's business? So I think that working around the periphery is obviously great. And yeah, if you're exchanging in-game items for real money in any way, even if it's outside the game via PayPal, yeah, that's totally not cool, right? That's not allowed. But that's a lot harder for them to police. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't see any problem with paying your FCs, because God, FC is a really hard job. I would be terrified.
Yeah, right. I think it's very interesting because and the reason I brought you into this is that in a different way, you are taking your in-game items, right? This gold magnet that Kellon sold,
yeah.
And you're taking it and using it as an opportunity to cash out for a good cause through CCP.
Yeah, I mean, I've got all this cash, and I'm not going to be able to. I'm certainly not going to RMT it. No, I mean, I'm playing by the rules of the game, and I'm really excited that CCP comes up with this Plex for good, because it is a way that lets me turn this vast amount of in-game stuff that I'm not. I'm never going to be able to use it all in game, even if I was playing actively. It lets me turn it into something real, make a real difference, and. The fact that there's this sort of these stories now going around about the most expensive internet spaceship, that's sort of icing on the cake even as well. I'll be able to turn that into content and get clicks and get views. I didn't even think about that until afterwards, but it's it's kind of a fringe benefits that's starting to emerge.
Yeah.
But as I said, the main thing for me that started was I just wanted to cash out a bunch of Plex that I was going to have. And I remember early on finding out about the gold magnates, back in 2007, and trying to pick up the occasional rare ship. And this, of course, comes out as one of the rarest ships. So that was kind of a dream, an Eve dream.
That all came together, right?
It all came together. I love it when a plan comes together.
Right. And you happen to be sitting on a pile of Plex. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, those were, as I said, probably going to for good either way.
Well, anyway, it seems like a really gray area, and I wanted to explore that with you guys that all have experience with having an immense amount of commitment to EVE Online, and in some cases moving a lot of money in the game around, and also the third-party aspect of basically creation of support materials for EVE Online, whether it be media, advertising, any of that stuff, and how that all fits in. I think it's a very gray area.
There was another gray area that I encountered early on. Thought, I'll have like a lottery. If people sign up as subscribers to my channel, I can give them Plex. And then I checked that out with CCP, and they were like, "Yeah, don't do that. That's probably RMT." So offering Plex as lottery prizes for real world subscriptions, they were not happy with. So it never happened.
Oh, so you checked that out?
Yeah, I asked nicely. I think I asked Hilmar when he was at GDC, and he was like, "Don't do that." Okay.
Oh, my! I missed all that because my connection gets really bad after the
I see.
90-minute mark.
Well, Hilmar was at GDC, and I asked him about Plex competitions. He was like, "Yeah, don't do that."
We like you. Don't do that. Yeah, and you've really brought a lot of people to the game, so it's a good thing that you have been around and continue to be around.
I got to stress, even although I don't play the game because I don't have the time, I'm still very excited by the game, and I love following what's going on. And it was great when I logged back in and I found all these skills and precursor frigates and weapons. I haven't trained any of that. I'm going to have to learn what all this stuff is about, though. Maybe I will find some time to play.
Nice. Well, we know you're busy with Kerbal Space Program. Has the second version of that come out?
Not yet. No. I'm very much moved away from games. The games are very rare. All real science these days. If you've got a question on rocket science or stars or astronomy, I'm there to answer it for you.
Yeah. Did you see that SpaceX rocket?
Yes. Oh yeah, I saw it from every single angle, every single camera I could find. We measured the debris coming off of it to figure out that it was the dummy second stage with the, had torn at the top of the oxygen tank. We figured out it was going about Mach 1 when it hit the water and maybe massed about 100 tons. Yeah, this is the nerdery that I get into all the time. I had to get up at ridiculous AM to watch that as well.
Well, you're from EVE Online, so it doesn't surprise me, but it still kind of surprises me.
Yes.
What do they call you, by the way? Like an Argonaut or something?
No, I call myself the internet rocket scientist these days.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in your Wikipedia listing, they had a name for you. It was like a gamer.
Oh, Astrono Gamer was like a thing. Yeah. Yeah, that was because Astro Gamer was trademarked.
Oh.
But I think Scott Manley is just the best way to credit me.
Yeah. All right, great. And you're still putting out like 2 episodes per week.
2 to 3, yeah. And they're all science, all really well researched.
Yeah, well, have to check those out.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank everybody for showing up. We probably had other news, but we'll have to pick those up with Today in EVE Online. I've started doing that again, so you can see some TIS every morning. Check it out on Monday. We usually come on around the same time as this show, and we'll just pick up the headlines and run with it from there. But we save Sunday for special shows like this one because we got the chance to talk to Scott Manley. We got the chance to talk to Kellon, who is a championship, the leader of the team that won the championship for the secession trials. That alone, dude, is like huge. And that's a historic win. And together on this occasion, they actually brought a bunch of good to the PLEX for Good for Australia. That's really burning down these days. It's really terrible. So it's good to do that on these shows. Also want to thank Killa B for stopping in and getting us really comprehensively up to date. And of course, Naros, who is the tireless engine behind Fraternity.
Aye, no problem.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming. Also want to thank everybody else for showing up and joining us this Sunday. We will be back on Wednesday. Oh, let me ask you guys, do you have any last comments before I go?
Fly safe.
Okay, that's good. All right, thanks again. We will try to raid something that's coming up. It is Girls in Space, I think. It's a Max Singularities thing. It's also an event that's happening now. So we'll... so Max Singularity, that's twitch.tv/Max_Singularity. We'll try to raid that next if they are up. And at 1800, there is Sunday service. That is hilarious because he is the Space Pope after all. So check that out. That's actually like in 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, that's all that we have for you today. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.